All right, so today we're going to finish up reviewing the present perfect. We started reviewing the present perfect regarding the past continuous. Last class, I wanted you to practice the present perfect only to form questions because I thought that we needed to review questions. My idea is that we had some problems with the question formation especially. So yeah, that's why I wanted to focus on that. Also, today we are going to focus on the present perfect simple, but we are going to contrast it with the present perfect continuous. So we are going to have both of them. And then we are going to talk about health problems. Yeah, I thought it was a good idea to increase your vocabulary related to talking about health. So yeah, that's the plan. We are going to do a reading exercise also. So yeah, it's we've got a few activities to work on today. Let me stop this and we can go to Miro, where I wanted to show you some things about the previous exercise. Let me find it. Here it is. Yeah, I always get lost in Miro. All right, so last class we were reviewing these exercises with the present perfect simple, and there were some things that I wanted to point out today, especially regarding word order. So yeah, for example, in this question, let me mark it. This is the one, the first one here. Yeah, we have the best place I have ever visited is Angkor Wat. So we have here the present perfect simple I have ever visited. Let me mark it again. I have ever visited here. So that tells me that we are talking about the present perfect. Okay, so that's the first key clue that you have. Then what is the correct form to ask this question? It's not what has the best place you have ever visited. It doesn't make sense. Because you have has in the middle, it doesn't sound anything close to correct. Okay, so what I recommend is that you pay attention to the words that you have in the answer. For example, you have the present perfect here, I've ever visited, but then you have the verb to be in the present simple, in the present. So the best place I've ever visited is Angkor Wat. Okay, so what are you supposed to use in your question? Exactly the same word, the present simple of the verb to be. So instead of asking what has the best place that you've ever visited, I would recommend to use what is the best place that you've ever visited, right? So yeah, it is very important that you make sense in your sentences and not only try to include the ingredients that I have proposed, right? So that's a key aspect here. Let me go here. So yeah, what is the best place you've ever visited? The best place I've ever visited is Angkor Wat. This is also related to the object and subject questions that I talked to you about in the previous unit. Okay, so it is also important to keep an eye on those questions because they are very important in English, and it's a good idea to keep them in mind. Question, just to see if you remember. Is this the first one? Is this a subject or an object question? This one right here. Subject or object? Who knows?
This is a subject question?
Subject question? Why is it a subject question?
Wait, I'm thinking. We want to know where is or what is the best place. So there is no unless that the have you have ever visited has has a subject. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm looking for to know what is the best place.
Where's the best place?
But
Yeah.
includes. I have a question too. This is a question in a question.
What is the place? No, it's not a question within a question. No, it's just
Because
a question.
you in the chat you put what is the best place you have ever visited?
Mm-hmm.
And in this case is have you ever visited?
Oh yeah, the word
So
order
I am
here.
a little bit confused.
Yeah, I got it. You're having problem with the word order. Yep. Let me correct the word order here. I hadn't noticed. Let me get it. So what is the place the best place you've ever visited? Yes. Thank you very much for pointing it out. I hadn't even noticed. Yeah. So yeah, again, what is well, Sash thinks this is a subject question, but the answer is here. And the subject is here, the best place. That's the subject of the answer. And this is the subject or the object. What do we want to know?
Object.
The object, yes. We want to know the object of the sentence because we already know the subject. The subject is the best place, but we don't know the object. What is that place? So the best place is Angkor Wat. So yeah, this is an object question. All right, that's why it doesn't have an auxiliary verb, as you can see. It has the auxiliary verb here for the present perfect, but that's another story. But at the beginning, we have no auxiliary verb. And so it's an object question. Sometimes knowing that can help you make up the sentences and the questions correctly, right? So yeah, I just mentioned it, but yeah, it's a good idea always to review the previous contents in order not to forget, I would say. Yeah, I think this one was the question that almost everybody did incorrectly, especially because of the use of what. Because most of you used which, but I told you which is for when you have clear options, and what is for when you have no options and it's something general. Okay, so yeah, keep that in mind also. What else? Oh, that's why I wanted to mention, let me move a little bit. Where is, oh, here it is. That's why I wanted to mention also that this exercise that you had to do with the question words, it's also a very important one because knowing how to use the question words, it's also a must here. You cannot go wrong with the question words when you know what they mean and what they are used for. And that's why we said that which is for choice. Because whenever you're using which, you have to give me choices, this or that. Or the choices are clear sometimes. If you have no choices, then what is used for information? General information, whatever information, not specific. So which is specific and what is general, if you wish. So yeah, careful with that. What else can we mention about this? Let me move a little bit. Yeah, the same idea with these questions that I was correcting over the course of the meeting. So that's why many people now have it correct. But yeah, most people were using what have happened since last week. That is impossible. Yeah, because you need to conjugate the verb. And we take this one as if you were talking about it. It has happened that. So what has happened? We take it as a singular and it's a thing. So that's why we need to use has and not have. What has happened? Now tell me, now that we reviewed, is this a subject or an object question? What has happened? Subject or object? What do you guys think?
Subject.
Subject. Okay, so while you're thinking, I'm creating a poll and I'm going to ask you. Since I'm not getting many answers, I'm going to push you a little further away. Oops, sorry. Let me relaunch it. Yeah. So what type of question do you think this is? We have what has happened since last weekend? Is it a subject question or object question regarding to what you remember? Let's see. We have object question in the chat. We'll see. This is just a review. I mean, you can still speak English without knowing if it's a subject question or an object question. But I think it's helpful because it helps you realize what kind of a conjugation you need to use, or whether you need an auxiliary verb or you don't need an auxiliary verb. So it may be helpful from that point of view. That's why we are reviewing this and trying to make a point here. Now let me share the results. And we have something very similar. Some people think it's a subject question and other people think it's an object question. So, yeah, we don't have a clear winner here. It's, I think we are confused a little bit. So what has happened since last weekend? Nothing has happened. Nothing has happened. Or what else can I say? Well, since last weekend, I traveled. I don't know. I traveled, etc. All right, so what has happened? Nothing. So subject or object, just leave it like that. Nothing has happened. Subject or object. Still confusing? I think this one is confusing because of the use of the present perfect, because the present perfect doesn't take another auxiliary verb. It's just that one, right? That's the only auxiliary verb that we are using. And we have it in the question. The only difference is that the auxiliary verb here it's conjugated, and it's conjugated into the third person singular. So yeah, that's why. But I would say it is a subject question because yeah, the answer is right on the subject part. So nothing has happened. That's the deal. If the answer were here after the verb, maybe we would have an object question. But that is not the case. That is not the case. We have a subject question here. And we still have an auxiliary verb, which is has. So the word order is normal. It's as regular as usual. Right? So yeah, that's why I think it may be helpful for you to know the differences between subject and object, just to know how to conjugate the verb or when to add an auxiliary verb, stuff like that. This is just a review. We are not going to have the same topic on the exam, so don't worry. It's just for you to refresh your memory. Where have the students gone? In this case, we're using have instead of has. Why? Because you have students. It's plural, right? So in this case, we're not using it. We are using they. Where have they gone? That's perfectly correct. The opposite case we have with why has my phone stopped working? Because my phone, it's a singular, it's only one, and it can be replaced by it. So why has it stopped working? So yeah, that would be the difference between using have or has in your questions also. In this case, we have because we have you. How much homework have you done? The same here, have you spoken? And who has already finished this exercise? So here we don't have has, although we don't have a subject. So who has already finished the exercise? Let me ask you just about this last one. Who has already finished the exercise? Let me stop sharing. Let me relaunch. So this one, let me mark it with another color so everybody can be following what I'm doing. This question here, number 6, is it a subject or an object question? What do you guys think? Who has already finished this exercise? I think now things are clearer than previously. Yes, we are getting better results. Let me share. So we have a subject question. Definitely, it's a subject question. Who has already finished? I don't know. What can we answer? Me. Me. That's me. I am the subject. Or Janice. I don't know. Janice. Janice and Paul have already finished. Right? So we are asking about this information, the subject of the question. That's why this is a subject question. So yeah, that would be it. I wanted just to make a review. Let me ask you just one last question. Let me mark my question. This one. How much homework have you done so far? Let me stop sharing. Let me relaunch. Is this a subject or an object question? How much homework have you done so far? Object or subject? Let me give you a few more seconds to vote. Okay, let me share. And now we have a clear winner, and it's an object question. How do we know this is an object question? Because the answer would be similar to this. I've done a lot of homework. I've done a lot of homework. So after the verb, I have the information. It's and the information that I'm looking for, it's in the object part of the sentence, and this is the subject, I, because you are asking about me. So I've done a lot of homework. That's the object. Yeah, so that would be the difference between our objects and subject questions. I just wanted to remind you that information so you can have the information more clear or more fresh in your memories. Yeah, apart from that, I think we did a good job. There were some mistakes, small mistakes, especially when writing the questions and the answers. For example, I have many people writing like this. I have lived since 1976. What does this mean in Spanish? Can anybody translate this sentence into Spanish, please? I have lived since 1976.
He vivido desde 1976.
Ajá, there you go. He vivido desde 1976. When I read that, I think that maybe you were born in 1976. I'm not sure. So yeah, this answer, it's a little confusing because you're not giving me the exact information. I have lived since 1976, a little confusing. So you have to be very clear about your answer. Don't leave important information out of your answers, because when you leave information out, you start making things very confusing. Okay, so now it says I have lived here since 1976. So he vivido aquí desde. He vivido aquí, no he vivido in general, right? So yeah, careful with those kind of things, because yeah, those things make a big difference. I'm rich. Yeah, I think that was pretty much it. Most of the corrections that I made in these sections were related to that, leaving important information out. Yeah, as you can see here, I have the same correction because people again were writing things like it. I have lived about 5 years. He vivido por 5 años, so you are 5 years old? I'm not sure. That's confusing. Okay, so don't leave important information out of the sentence. And in this case, they did it many times. Also, they say, I've studied since 2020. So again, a little confusing. What else I've sent? Yeah, there's a problem with the verb here. And I've been eating oatmeal doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, careful with those kind of things. Please, if this is your slide, have a look and make corrections because yeah, they are quite confusing. What else? I think that was it, pretty much it. We don't, most of the mistakes were very similar. For example, here again, we have send instead of sent. Yeah, so you need to use the participle form, not the present, not the past. Yeah, that was it. So as I told you at the beginning of the class, I wanted to make sure that we practiced questions, especially because, yeah, we tend to have a lot of problems. I don't know why, but we tend to have a lot of problems when asking questions, especially. Not answering them, but when you have to formulate the questions, I have noticed that you have many issues there. So yeah, that's something that we need to keep an eye on. I'm trying to look for the other activity. That's why I'm scrolling out, zooming out. All right. Yeah, after that, we are going to complete this activity, but not yet. First things first, and I want to talk about the present perfect versus the present perfect continuous. So just to remind you, last class, but one, we were contrasting the past simple with the present perfect simple. And yeah, we were making the relationship between finished and unfinished actions or life experiences. That was it. And now I want to have a look at the present perfect simple versus the present perfect continuous, which sometimes can be interchangeable, but not always. So let's talk about first the form, the structure. So how do we structure this kind of sentences? We have already some sentences, about the present perfect simple. Now, what we need to do is to put those sentences into the present perfect continuous. So the first thing that you are going to need is I have. That doesn't change. What changes is that after have, you need to use been, and after that, you need to use an ing form. So I have been traveling instead of I have traveled. I've been traveling to London a lot, maybe. A lot this year. I've been traveling to London a lot this year. And what's going to happen when I try to talk about another person, he, she, or it? The same is going to happen. I'm going to change the verb conjugation. So instead of saying she have, I have to say she has. So she has been traveling to London a lot this year. That's it. That's very much it. So what changes? Just the use of the verb to be in the participle form, been, and the addition of the ing form after been. That's the only thing that has changed. Again, the use of the participle form of the verb to be and the addition of the ing form. That's it. Now, how do you form negative sentences? It's pretty easy and it's pretty much the same as you do in the present perfect simple. So I've been traveling to London a lot this year. What's going to happen is that you're going to say, I haven't been traveling to London a lot this year. That's it. Not more complicated than that. And the same is going to happen with the negative form of the third person singular. She hasn't been traveling to London a lot this year. That's pretty much it. Now, what's going to happen with the questions? The same thing. Let me copy this because it's the same idea. Have you, instead of travel, well, first I'm going to use been. And after been, I need to use the ing form of the verb. So have you been traveling a lot to London? A lot to London this year. And that's it. What's going to happen with the third person singular? The same. Has she been, instead of traveled, I need the ing form. A lot to London this year. And that's what we've got. All right, so the structure changes just a little bit, regarding the use of the participle form of the verb to be and the ing form next. That's it. That's the only thing that changes. It also changes a little bit the meaning because I have traveled to London. London would be like he viajado a Londres, whereas I have been traveling to London a lot this year. Changes a little bit. He estado viajando a Londres mucho este año. He estado viajando instead of he viajado. That's the only thing that changes also regarding the translation, the meaning. Yeah, as you can see, they are quite similar, but yeah, it changes just a little bit related to the meaning. Now we have to have a look at the difference between their use, because there are some differences, as you may imagine. So let's have a look at that. Let's move on. And here we have some examples. For example, have you ever written a blog? We've landed, but we haven't gotten off the plane yet. I've already told you 3 times. It's the best book I've ever read. I've known Keiko since I was a child. My sister has had the flu for 10 days now. How many Patricia Cornwell novels have you read? And finally, they've seen each other since they've seen each other twice this week. That's it. All right, so let's pay attention to the explanation of each. Let's have a look at this one. Have you ever written a blog? And here we have the explanation. We have that we use the present perfect simple to talk about past experiences when you don't say when something has happened. So this is related to what I had already explained to you. Something happened in the past, but we don't want to mention when it happened because it's not important, it's not relevant. We just don't want to say it. So that's one of the uses of the present perfect simple. Something happened in the past, but we don't want to say when it happened. So I have traveled to London. That's it. When did I travel? If I want to share that experience, then I'm going to have to use the past simple. But if I don't want to mention it, I've just traveled to London, it's fine. Right, so yeah, that's the first thing, and it's something that we've already covered. So it's not new. Then we have this one. We've landed, but we haven't gotten off the plane yet, and I've already told you 3 times. And the important thing here is that the most useful connectors that you can use with the present perfect are yet and already. So they are very well accompanied by the present perfect. I've landed, we've landed, but we haven't gotten off the plane yet. So you can use yet when your sentence is negative. We haven't gotten off the plane. That's negative. So we normally use yet with negative sentences, and we normally use already with affirmative sentences and questions also. So I've already told you 3 times, affirmative. Oh, have you done it already? Question. All right, so yeah, that's pretty much how it works. Let me repeat. Yet goes with negative sentences, already goes with affirmative sentences and questions. That's the deal with this, yet and already. Now let's have a look at number 3. It didn't work. Let me mark it again. It's the best book I've ever read. What does this mean? It means that we use the present perfect simple with superlatives and the first, second, and last time that we've done something. Alejandra, tell us.
Thank you, Val. Good night, good evening to everybody. Could you please explain again about this, the second question, please? The difference between yet and already?
Yep, I can go through that again. Let me go.
Thank you.
Good. So it said that you can use yet with negative sentences. And we can use already with affirmative and questions. Affirmative sentences and questions. For example, I haven't finished yet. I haven't finished yet. This is negative. So what I use is yet. Whereas when I have already, I can say I've finished already. I finished already, or have you finished already? Have you done it already? Have you finished already? So yeah, that would be the difference between those two. Also, there's a difference between meaning. Just in case you need this information, I'm going to mention it. Yet means, what does yet mean? Can anybody tell me?
Aún.
Todavía.
Aún o todavía. Very good. I haven't finished yet. No he terminado todavía. And already, what does already mean?
Yeah.
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 Yes, there you go. So I finished already, ya terminé o ya he terminado. Have you finished already? Ya has terminado. That's it. Yeah. So that would be the difference between those two. Yeah, let's go back. Now we have, it's the best book I've ever read. And what we have here is that we use the present perfect simple with superlatives. The best book is the best place I've ever visited. It's the best person I've ever met. It's the most romantic song that I've ever listened to, whatever. Yeah, so superlatives go with the present perfect simple. It's the best experience I've ever had. It's the best city I've ever visited. And yeah, that's it. And it says the first, the second, the last time. It's the first time that I've heard this song. It's the second time that I visited this place. It's the last time that I've heard it. Stuff like that. Yeah, but with superlatives especially, we use the present perfect simple. Is the best student that I've ever had. Yeah. So keep it in mind whenever you are trying to talk about the best in quality of superlatives, you may use the present perfect simple to add some emphasis to that idea. Now let's go with number 4. And we have 2 examples in number 4. We have, I've known Keiko since I was a child, or my sister had had the flu for 10 days now. That's a little complicated. And here we have a long explanation. Let me check the chat first. Can I say, it's the last time I've lied to you? Yes, you can say that. It is correct. Although it is more common to use it in the present simple. It's the last time I lied to you. You are going to hear people using it like that. But if you said it in the present perfect, it also works. It's not incorrect, but it's less used. It's less common, if you wish. Right, so yeah, I've known Keiko since I was a child, or my sister has had the flu for 10 days now. It's a long time. With non-action verbs, like non-continuous verbs, the verbs that don't usually go in the continuous form, for example, be, have, know, like, taste, etc. To say that something started in the past and still true now. Okay, so we use the present perfect simple with non-action verbs to say that something started in the past and still true now in the present. For example, this use is common with time expressions like how long? How long have you lived in Bolivia? How long have you studied English? How long have you liked Korean, etc. And also we use it with prepositions like for or since or all day or evening. So I've lived here for 7 years. I've lived here since 2017, 15. I've worked the whole day or the whole evening, right? So yeah, we use it to mention that something started in the past, started this morning, for example. I've worked all day, I started this morning, but up to this point, I'm still working. So it is still true. The action is still happened. That's why I told you about unfinished action. This action is not finished yet because I started working this morning. Now in the present, I'm still working. So I have worked all day. It makes sense in that case. And an important thing here is that don't use the simple present or continuous in this situation. I know King Keiko since I was a child. This is a very important thing. Let me highlight it because I have many students using the present simple in these situations. And the present simple here sounds really weird. I do not recommend using the present simple in this case. So I sometimes I hear my students saying, I learned English since I was a child. Doesn't make sense. I've learned English. I've studied English since I was a child. Right? So things that have started in the past and are still true in the present are always set in the present perfect simple. There's no exception here. What else? Let's move on to number 5. Let me mark it. And here we have, how many Patricia Cornwell novels have you read? Or they've seen each other twice this week. So what happens here is that we use the present perfect simple when we say or ask how much or how many. And we have done, or how often also. We have done something up to now, up to this point. So how many years have you studied English? I mean, since you started up to this point. How many books have you read? How many exercises have you completed? How many times have you visited your mom this week? How often have you been to the gym this week? Right, so all of those questions that bring you up to the present are used in the present perfect simple. Alejandra, tell us.
Thank you, Val. In this case, don't we have to choose how many Patricia Cornwell's novels have you read?
Yeah, so you are missing the apostrophe here.
Yes, and I can get this opportunity if you can explain us the use of apostrophe with S
Yeah.
in properties
Yes.
issues.
Yes. All right. Yeah. When we are talking about possessions. Good. Yeah, in this case, it's not necessary. Well, you could include it if you want to be like very thorough with grammar, but normally we don't include it. Why? Because we have a proper name here. It's like Patricia Cornwell. It's like a metaphor, really. Patricia Cornwell becomes a metaphor. So whenever we are talking about authors, we normally don't use the apostrophe because we understand that this is like a big thing. We know it. It's the same like how many Picasso paintings have you seen, for example? How many Picasso paintings have you seen? So yeah, the proper thing, like the grammatically correct thing, would be how many Picasso's paintings have you seen? But actually, we don't need it because this is a proper name, like a big name. We know it. So it becomes a metaphor of itself. So we normally wouldn't use that with well-known authors or artists. This is what I said, well-known. That's not what I said. This is what I said. Well-known authors or artists in general. What's your favorite? My gosh, I don't know any band. I don't know. What's your favorite Eminem song? Right, so in this case, again, you would think that, yeah, Eminem's song. But yeah, since this is a well-known author, he's a name for himself, he stands for himself, we wouldn't use the apostrophe just because of that. It sounds more natural not to use it. So yeah, you wouldn't get it. Now, when to use the apostrophe S, like those are called, by the way, possessive nouns. Yeah, this is a long conversation. Possessive nouns, it's we have many rules for when to use them, when not to use them, when to use possessive nouns. When I say possessive nouns, I mean apostrophe S at the end of names. Possessive nouns, we also have adjectives, possessive adjectives. Oops. And another way we can talk about possessions in English is by using the of. So we have three ways of talking about possessions in English. All of them have very specific rules. Sometimes they meet, sometimes they are confusing. So this is something that we can talk about next class. I can prepare like the whole material, and we can contrast the three of them because I usually have my students using this one, which is not the most common in English. In Spanish we use this one, but in English we don't. So yeah, maybe it would be a good idea to review all of them because it's a long conversation, I'm telling you. So yeah, let me write it down so I remember. Possessions. Yeah, so there are also rules for using them only with the apostrophe and no S. So it's a very long conversation. We'll talk about that in detail next class. Thank you, Alejandra, for pointing it out. Nicole, tell me.
Hi, Val. Following this topic, maybe you know, or because I want to know, why in English we say Alzheimer's with an apostrophe S, and in Spanish we say only Alzheimer.
Alzheimer, yes. Okay, yeah, that's a good question. Alzheimer's, did I spell it correct? Yes, Alzheimer's disease. Yeah, that's what we call it in English, Alzheimer's disease. Yeah, we usually write it with the apostrophe because it's I think this is the scientific, the scientist that discovered the disease. So it takes his name. So in English, it's like the disease of this person, like this person discovered it. So that's why we use it like that. In Spanish, we don't use it like that because first, we don't have this kind of possession. And second of all, we don't speak like that about sicknesses or diseases in general in Spanish. So for us in Spanish would be very weird. But in English, we have many diseases that are called like this just because they take the name of the person who discovered them or who invented some cure or who dedicated his or her life to investigating this. So yeah, that would be the reason why. Good. All right, any other comment or question up to this point? Well, good. All right. Yes, that's pretty much it regarding the present perfect simple. So yeah, we have all these scenarios in which we can use the present perfect simple. Now what we need to do is to try to incorporate it into our daily use of the language, so we can include it and it will become more natural the more we use it. Mostly the present perfect simple is very similar to the way we use it in Spanish, and it's not that different. So yeah, maybe sometimes you can contrast it with Spanish and it would be correct, but yeah, those are the rules. Keep them in mind and try to review them whenever it's possible for you, because also the more you review the information, the easier it becomes to remember and to follow the rules. That's a difficulty with learning a different language, is that we need to learn the rules, keep them in mind, and then force ourselves to follow the rules, because otherwise, if we don't force ourselves to follow the rules, they will never come into our mind. The process of forcing ourselves to follow the rules can be very long. It depends on each person. Some people learn languages faster, so they don't take so long, but yeah, it's usually a long process. Once we have done that for a long time, like forced ourselves to use the language in that way, it becomes natural and it becomes easier for you to make the decision. Shall I use past or present perfect? But up to, well, when you haven't practiced that much, making that decision is harder for your brain. So the more you use it, the easier it becomes, the more natural it becomes. So yeah, I show the rules. Now it's your duty to review them and try to use them. Let's go, because I have more rules. But in this case, I have rules for the present perfect continuous, right? The previous one was the present perfect simple. And again, we have the examples and some explanations. Let's read the examples. So how long have you been feeling sick? And he's been chatting online all evening. So we use the present perfect continuous with number one. We use the present perfect continuous with action verbs to say that an action started in the past and it's still happening now. So again, to connect the past with the present. Okay, there's always the chance to connect those two. So if something started in the past, but now it's still happening, the action is still in progress, you may use the present perfect continuous. So how long have you been feeling sick? That means that you started feeling sick in the past, but now in the present, you are still feeling sick. The action is still going on. It's in the process. He's been chatting online all evening, meaning that he started chatting online at the beginning of the evening. Now that the evening is about to finish, he still is chatting. So he's been chatting all evening. The action is still in progress. Connecting again the past with the present. This use is common with expressions with, again, how long, for, since, and all day. So how can you choose between the present perfect simple and continuous? It depends on you. If you want to make emphasis on the duration of the action, then you may want to use the present perfect continuous. If you don't want to make emphasis on the duration of the action, go for the simple way. So how long have you been feeling sick, or how long have you been sick? Simple and continuous, depending on where your emphasis is. If your emphasis is on the duration, go for the continuous form. What else do we have? Don't use the simple present or continuous in this situation. I know, Keiko, since I was a child, it's the same idea. Don't use the present simple to connect the past with the present. It doesn't work. The only tense that connects the past with the present is the present perfect simple or continuous. There is no other that can help you in this situation. So be careful with that. Now let me clear up. I don't want to delete everything, so let me just clear this up. All right, so we have number 2. I haven't been sleeping well, or it's been raining all day. So we use the present perfect continuous for repeated actions, especially with a time expression. All day, recently, the whole week, all month, etc. I haven't been sleeping well lately. It also works with lately. I haven't been sleeping well recently. So it also works with recently. It's been raining all day. It's been raining all month, all semester. God knows. All right, so for repeated actions, things that happen over and over again and never seem to finish. I haven't been sleeping well. Of course, I have been sleeping and then I've been awake, but it's a repeated action. Every time that I try to sleep, I don't sleep well. Repeated action. Of course, when we say it's been raining all day, probably there are some times when it stopped raining. But what we mean is that it has been mostly raining all day. Right? So it works for those situations too. Repeated actions over the course of time. That's it. Now we have finally number 3, and we have that I've been shopping all morning. I'm exhausted. Take your shoes off. They're filthy. And yes, I know. I've been working in the yard. Filthy. What does filthy mean? Does anybody know? Filthy. It's an interesting adjective. What do we have? Dirty? Yes, dirty, but extremely dirty. Is dirtier than dirty. Dirtier than dirty. So stronger, I would say. Stronger than dirty. More similar to disgusting, but not exactly disgusting. Yeah, so it will be in between dirty and disgusting. Filthy. We can use it to talk about people and to talk about things. Filthy. All right, so 3. I've been shopping all morning. I'm exhausted. So we use the present perfect continuous for continuous actions that have just finished, but that have present results, right? So in the recent past, something that just have been happening. So if you say I've been shopping all morning, I'm exhausted. At this time, it doesn't make sense because it's already like 8 in the evening, so it doesn't make sense. But if you say I've been shopping all morning at 12 p.m., it makes sense because it's a recent thing. All right, so when you are when there's a proximity between the action that has just finished and the present, it is a good idea to use the present perfect continuous. Yeah, so it depends also on the proximity. The newer the action, the better. The more likely you are to use the present perfect continuous, the newer the action. All right, any questions about this? Any comments? Are we good? Yeah. So yeah, these are just a few rules for you to get familiarized with the structure, in the sense of, yeah, there are some rules and sometimes we need to keep an eye on them in order to respect and to make sense. Yeah, this is something that we have already talked about, like unfinished actions. We know that something that started in the past and still true in the present. Let's not go over this because this is something that we've already had a look at. No, we are going to complete that. So yeah, those are the rules that I wanted to mention. So what's the difference? The main difference between the present perfect simple and the present perfect continuous, the emphasis on the duration. So the more emphasis you want to make on the duration of the action, the more likely you are to use the present perfect continuous. What does duration mean? Like how much or how long an action lasts, regarding time. That's it. All right, so now I'm gonna have you practice. Not specifically this this structure. I'm going to have some exercises uploaded on Drive for you to practice the structure, but now I want to have you put the vocabulary in use. How are we going to do that? We're going to do it by working on Miro. And this time, we're not going to work on the previous activity. This is the previous activity. We're not going to work there, but we are going to work on this activity. So let me get closer, and I think that's gonna make it easier for you to get the activity. So what's gonna happen? This is a reading exercise, okay? It's reading comprehension. So I'm expecting you to read the text and understand what the text is about. So what is a hypochondriac? What is that? We are going to find it out on the text. And you have two activities to complete according to the text. The first one is to read these sentences here, and you have to include them in the blank spaces that you have on the text. You can include them just by adding a text box and adding the letter, for example, A, B, C, or D. Yeah. It's easy in that regard. The second activity is related to this thing right here. Let me clear my drawings. This thing right here. All right, so I want you to review the highlighted vocabulary and try to match this vocabulary with the definitions that we have here. There are 11 definitions. And in this case, I would like you to write the whole word here so we can know what you are talking about. All right, so yeah, we have about half an hour to complete this. So use your time wisely, discuss the meaning of the questions. Sorry, the questions. The words in the text, discuss all the words that you don't know. Try not to use the translator because the translator is not a good friend when learning a language. Try to use a dictionary. If there's something that you don't understand, ask me, but don't go to the translator. All right, so yeah, two activities regarding this. And next class, we'll have a little discussion about it. All right, so let's go. Oh, let me clear my board first. Now, let's share the link first. For those of you who don't have the link, this is it. Oh, let me send it to everybody. There you go. This is the link, and now let me clear my board. Open up the link, and of course, we're going to work in pairs because I think that makes it easier for all of us. And I'm going to be visiting you all the time. So let me open up the breakout rooms. Let's go there. They are the rooms. Let me check. All right, I was checking some of your answers. I didn't get to all of the boards because, yeah, it was a little tricky and sometimes I get distracted answering your questions or talking to you. So, yeah, but I'm going to finish up checking after the class. And there are some of the boards a little confusing, but yeah, I'll try my best. You have the link already, but I will share it again in case you want to read the text again or review vocabulary, etc. Now I have a question for you because I was thinking about giving you homework, but yeah, since it's one class to another, I need to see if you agree because yeah, I would like you to do the homework. Otherwise, we'll do it in class. But yeah, let's see. It's a listening homework, so you would have to listen to a doctor explaining things, and then you would have to answer questions about it. So that's my idea. And I would like you to do it as homework because I would like you to work alone on this exercise. So let's see what you say. Let me give you a few more seconds to vote. And I'll share. Right. Yeah, okay, we got it. That's why you're my favorite students. You won homework. Okay. I'm going to share a link on your personal folders on Drive, and I'm going to share the audio for the listening that you have to do. All the instructions are in the document. Once I've finished uploading the homework to Drive, I'm going to send you a message to indicate where you can find it and where you can find the audio. It's for next class. Next class, we'll review it, and then we'll discuss it, okay? That would be it. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming, and I will be seeing you next class. If you have extra questions, stay with me. Otherwise, you may leave. Thank you all.
Thank you.